Hi grade 8s, welcome to another one of our video lessons. We'll carry on from last week where we left off. So last week we learned about variables and coefficients and adding like terms together and subtracting like terms together and adding apples to apples, bananas to bananas, etc. Okay, so now we're going to continue with that on page 79 and we're going to learn how to multiply and divide in expressions of like terms. Okay, so we can multiply like terms together and I'll show you what we get from that. Okay, before we get into the examples, I want you to look at the blue block on page 79. So it says, any term multiplied or divided by 1 remains the same. Okay, and that's true for any number. So if we have 2 times 1, it's still 2. If we take 2 divided by 1, it's still 2. Okay, so any number multiplied by 1 still remains that number or doesn't change the answer. Right, any term multiplied by 0 is 0. So if we have nothing of something, we have nothing. Okay, so if we have 0 apples, we have no apples. And if we have 0 cars, we have no cars. Okay. And the last thing I'm sure you remember from before is that we cannot divide by 0. Okay, so we can multiply by 0, but anything divided by 0 is undefined. Okay, that's just recapping some algebra rules for you. Right, let's get into the example. So I'm going to do these worked examples and I'll show you a little bit of a different way to deal with part B rather than what they're doing there. Excuse me. Right, so let's get into the worked example. So it says simplify the following. I'm doing the worked example in your textbook on page 79, okay, in the yellow section. So it says simplify the following. 25a cubed times 4a squared. 25a cubed times 4a squared. 4a squared. Alright guys, so when we are multiplying terms together, we need to multiply numbers with numbers and like variables with like variables. Okay, so also we mustn't forget about the signs here. What signs are we multiplying? So I usually start with the first expression here for the first term. Or actually, this is all one big term, but the first part says 25a cubed. I see that it's a positive 25 times a positive 4. So a positive times a positive is going to give us a positive, so we don't really have to worry about that. Then I'm going to multiply the numbers. 25 times 4 is going to give me 100. Okay. Then we have a cubed multiplied. Okay, then we have a cubed multiplied by a squared. Right, remember with exponents, if we have x times x, that gave us x squared because we add the exponents together, okay? The same thing is happening here. We have a to the power of 3 times a to the power of 2. We add the exponents. So here, that 1 and 1, we add them to get x squared. So here we have a to the 3, a to the 2. We add 3 and 2 together, and we get a to the 5. Okay, and that's it, guys. So the trick here is that stick to the same things. Do the signs first, do the numbers next, and then do the variables. And then if the variables are not the same, then you just stick them together with exponents, with whatever exponents they have. Okay, so sorry guys, my cat is, or actually my neighbor's cat is coming to visit me and she's scratching on the door, asking me to let her in. Let me quickly show you. Hey Caitlin, this is mommy. Anyway, so guys, that's a kitty that comes to visit me. Right, anyway, let's continue with maths. So we've done that. So there's nothing more to do here. Let's look at part B. It says 24a cubed b divided by 4a squared b. So 24a cubed b. 24a cubed b. Okay, divided by 4a squared b. Divided by 4a squared b. Guys, so with multiplication, it's easy. You multiply one with another. With division, I don't like to work with this division sign. Whenever we have a division sign like this, change things to a fraction because then it's easier to cancel top and bottom and work with it that way. In its current form like this, you can make mistakes because you're not quite sure what are we dividing by what. But when we have it in a fraction, it's quite clear we just cross the common terms top and bottom. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this division into a division line. So I'll have 24a cubed b over 4a squared b. Right. So now the same thing applies, okay? When we multiply or divide signs, the answers are the same. So we're going to see what signs are we dividing here. We're dividing a positive by a positive. Our answer will be positive, so we can leave that alone. Then we are dividing 24 by 4. Here, this is just an improper fraction. So what can we do to simplify this? Well, I can divide by 4 here and divide by 4 there. If I divide by 4, I'll get 1 here, and divide by 4 there, I get 6. So at the top, I get 6. At the bottom, I get 1. Okay. Then we have a cubed divided by a squared. Okay. Let me just show you what this really means. A cubed is a times a times a over a squared is a times a. Okay. So when we divide, we can cancel like terms. So that a cancels with that a cancels with that a. And we're left with just an a. Okay. So to answer this, well, we're cancelling two a squareds here. So always look at which one is the smaller one. Okay, that's the one that's going to cancel with the top or the bottom. So the a squared will cancel over there. So we can take off two a's here, or rather a times a, and cancel off a times a there, and we'll only be left with one a at the top. Okay, or we can do it here. We can cross that out and change that 3 into a 1. Okay, so that will give us an A at the top. And then this B will cancel with that B. So this will just cancel and we'll have no B in the answer. So really the answer is 6A over 1, which is just 6A. Okay. So in the example in your textbook, the way they've done it is not using the division line and they just use division. So yes, you can do it that way, but I find it that it's a bit easier if you put the division line in. Okay, so the next one is use brackets in expressions. Okay, so in algebra, you can use brackets to indicate multiplication instead of using the cross sign. For example, 2 into bracket 3a squared close bracket is the same as 2 times 3a squared. So we know that brackets mean multiplication already. When you group terms in brackets, you get the factorized expression. So factorizing 4x plus 12 gives 4 into x plus 3. So let me show you how they get that. So we have 4x plus 12. Factorizing means pulling some part out of both of the terms, which is the same to both. Okay, I can see that a 4 goes into this 4, and also a 4 goes into a 12. So I can pull that 4 out. So what I do is I pull that 4 out, open bracket, write x, plus, if we divide 12 by 4, we're going to be left with 3. So what I've done is I've pulled out a 4 out of each one of these terms. So if we now multiply it out again, 4 times x will give us 4x, and 4 times 3 will give us the 12, and that's exactly what we started with. So all that I'm trying to say here is that we can factorize by pulling common things out of an expression and putting the rest of the expression in brackets. And you'll learn why we do this in later years in mathematics once we get to graphs and parabolas and sketching these functions and doing weird and wonderful things in maths. Okay, so that's brackets. Let's now continue to the next page. Sorry, let me just blow my nose. Okay, guys, so let's continue on page 80. I'm just going to read the little bit on top. It says, when you multiply at brackets, you have the expanded expression. You have to multiply every term inside the bracket by the number outside of the bracket, and it's called finding the product. You'll learn more about factorizing and finding product of terms in grade 9. All right, cool. So let's look at our worked example. So it says expand these expressions and simplify where possible. So the first part A, all they're giving us is two factorized expressions, and they say simplify. So simplify usually involves grouping like terms together. So basically we need to multiply everything out, get rid of brackets, and then add common things together and give an answer. So let's do this. So the first part says 4 into 2b minus 3c. 4 into, what is it? 2b minus 3c. 2b minus 3c. And then the second part, plus 2 into b plus 6c. Plus 2 into b plus 6c. Okay. Yes. Okay, this is a b, and that's a 6. All right, so what we notice, we have b and c here, we have b and c, so we have to multiply and group them together. Let's do that. So the first part, 4 into 2b. So remember, with brackets and factors, we multiply a number outside the bracket into each one of the terms inside the bracket. So 4 times 2b, 4 times 2 is 8b. 4 times negative, so this positive times a negative will give us a negative. 4 times 3 is 12. And what are we counting? We're counting c's. Plus 2 times b is 2b, plus 2 times 6 is 12. What are we counting? C's. 12c. Right, now we have common terms. So we have 8b over here and we have 2b over there. So 8b plus 2b is 10b. Okay, negative 12c plus positive 12c. Well, remember, this is an additive inverse. The two numbers cancel each other out. So if I have 2 apples and I add negative 2 to it, I have no apples. Okay, so minus 12c plus 12c gives us nothing, and our answer is just 10b. Yes, that's exactly what they got as well. All right, guys, so that's just taking things a little bit further. Now you have to multiply some brackets and add the like terms together. All right, let's get to exercise 8.5. I'll do a few of these, and then you guys are going to do the rest, and you're going to do the revision section for the next time we have a Skype session. So that should be, when is that? I don't know. We'll check on the note. We'll check on our schedule. I don't have it with me here, sorry. All right, so exercise 8.5. Number 1 says simplify. So I'm going to quickly run through the exercise. I'll explain what you need to do, and you guys are going to do the rest. So number 1, I'll do D for you. It looks like the hardest one. So 144x squared y squared. Okay. Divided by 12xy. Okay, so that's what we have. Remember, when we have division line, change it, division symbol, change it into a division line. So this is 144 x squared y squared over 12xy. Okay, so now we're dividing. So 144 and 12, does 12 go into both? Yes. 144 divided by 12 is 12. Here we have an x squared, here we have an x. So one of these x's will cancel with one of those x's, leaving one x at the top. And the same thing is happening here. So with the y's, one of these y's will cancel with one of those y's and leave one y at the top. Okay, and and that will be our answer here, 12xy. All right, guys, the rest you can do. Number 2, simplify. So here we have mixed things. We have divisions and multiplication. Okay, so let's do that. So the key here is to write it out correctly. Just going to grab the book. All right, so the first one says 18a squared b cubed times 2ab divided by 12a cubed b squared. Okay, so that's what we have. So this is just multiplication, and then we're dividing whatever we get by that. So what we can do here is we can arrange this whole thing into the correct format. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change that division sign into a division line. So we're dividing this by that. So at the bottom we have 12a cubed b squared. At the top we have 18a squared b cubed times 2ab. Okay, now we can say equals. Right, there's two ways of doing it, right? We can multiply the top out and then cancel, or we can try to cancel from both sides. I would recommend multiplying out the top first and then trying to cancel with the bottom. So let's do that. At the top, we have a positive 18 times a positive 2. 18 times 2 gives us a 36. A squared times another a, so that's a to the 2 plus a to the 1. We add the exponents, so that gives us a to the 3. B cubed multiplied by b to the 1, so we got 3 plus 1, so that's b to the 4. Okay, so that's what we get at the top. At the bottom, we still have 12a cubed b squared. Right, now we can cancel things. 36 and 12, is there a common number that goes into both? Yes, there's a lot of numbers that go into both, but the biggest one is 12. So 36 divided by 12 will give us a 3. At the top, we have a cubed. At the bottom, we have a cubed. That means both of these are going to cancel out. Sorry, guys. It's a bit chilly in this room. No, it's not Corona. Okay, so b to the 4 divided by b to the 2. These two cancel with those two on the top, and we have b squared left over. So the answer is 3b squared. Okay. All right, guys, so the rest of these you can do. So that is now number 2. Number 3, simplify. So there we have a common denominator. So with number 3, you have to factorize. Okay, so I'll do number 1 for you. So we got 4a plus 2b over 2. 4a plus 2b over 2. So if they want us to simplify this, there obviously has to be something that's canceling with something else. But as we can see here, so there's nothing that we can cancel with the 2 at this stage. What we have to do is we have to factorize this top expression by pulling something out that's common to both terms that could potentially cancel out with that 2 in the denominator. So what is that something? What number goes into a 4 and a 2? Well, it's a 2. And that 2 can also cancel with this 2 at the bottom. So what are we going to do? We're going to factorize the top. The common number is a 2. So I'm going to say 2 open bracket. Now, the way we find the numbers that go inside the bracket is you ask yourself a question. 2 times what must give me 4a? Well, it must definitely be an a because there's no a here. So 2 times what a gives me 4a? Well, 2 times 2 gives me a 4. So it must be a 2a inside the brackets, since 2 times 2a gives me 4a. Great, we've done that one. Plus, what about to get 2b? What do we have to multiply 2 by to get 2b? Well, we already have a 2. We need a b, so this has to be a b. Okay, and and then divide by that same 2 that we had over there. So do you see what we've done at the top? We've pulled out a common 2, and that's going to enable us to cancel those 2's. So we go ahead, cancel that, and the answer is 2a plus b. Okay. All right, guys, that is number 3. You can do that. Number 4, expand the following. So that just means multiply those brackets out, multiply that number into the brackets. And number 5, expand these expressions and simplify where possible. Okay, so again, it's similar to the worked example that we did. Just multiply them out and then add like terms together. Okay. Right, guys, that brings us to the end of this section. So the revision, the blue revision part is for homework. I want you to do it and to mark it as well. And then add that to the list of questions that we're going to discuss during the video, the Skype session, if you have any questions. So, guys, I don't want to spend time marking these myself. You have answers in the back of your book. So once you do a particular exercise, mark it yourselves. Make a list of questions or circle the ones that you had issues with. And once a week, we're going to go through these and address those issues. Okay, so good luck for revision. And please get it ready for next time I see you on our Skype session. Let me quickly check when that is. Okay, so it turns out it's actually tomorrow. So that means you probably won't have time to finish this revision section by then. So what you can do is up until tomorrow, do exercise 8.5. We'll go through that. And if you manage, then we can look at the revision. If not, we'll cover the revision in the next Skype session. All right, guys, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next week.